Hi, let's get one last startup of my 68 Camaro before I pull the engine out. As always, fuel pump on, pump the gas pedal, and now let's turn it on. Having already taken the engine out from the Mustang, I feel like this one should move along faster because I feel like it should be more or less the same steps. And also looking at the engine bay, it looks like there's not really much to it. This is what I mean by that there's not much to it. It doesn't look like there's a lot going on. There's like a lot of things that aren't here. Like it doesn't have AC, it doesn't have heating, it doesn't have power steering. And just looking at the connections, it looks like they removed a lot of the accessories. So this is what I mean, like it should go by a lot faster. This hood is already bothering me, especially because this engine is very deep and I feel like I have no room to work with, so we're going to remove it. So the hood is now off. Obviously I couldn't do it by myself because it's a two-person job, so I had the help of Chris and he still refuses to come here on camera to do it with me. But anyway, let's now raise the car and get to the fun stuff and drain all of the fluids. This one's pretty easy because there's only one place to put it, and I already like, well, I do like that this car isn't as low because I can see underneath. With my other cars, it's pretty hard to see underneath. So should be right about there. Plus, I am going to need the pinch welds for this car because that will be for what's next after the engine comes out. And for that video, I'm worried about this section back here because it looks like it's going, well, it's not that it might. It is going to be a pain with all the suspension back there because a lot of it is welded on and, you know, just gonna have to figure it out, but not looking forward to it. Drain this radiator. I can't 100% say that I'm not going to make a mess. I have it set up where I think it'll fall down, but I have a feeling it's probably going to shoot out, but let's see. I feel like if I take it out more, it's gonna start shooting further. But we don't have all day, so just YOLO. What the fuck, it's all over my face and mouth. Well, that's as much as it does, but the drain plug, it's kind of like a water faucet, so it doesn't come out all the way. So I really, really like that. Now it's time to drain the oil. I'm really hoping that there's no water here, that it's not milky, that there's just nothing but just plain regular old oil. Oh, it almost shot out, but I got it. And it looks perfectly fine. The last thing to drain, the transmission. First, let's get this fill plug loose. This one does have a drain plug, so it shouldn't be that much of a mess, if any, like the Mustang. Normally, I would use a socket. This would be so much easier, but this is a rectangle, so I have to use a wrench and just do this manually. I'm hoping that I have this set up in the right area as soon as the liquid starts coming out, that it just doesn't go all over the floor. Okay, I think I can do it now. All right. Hope for it not to shoot too far. Okay. No water in the transmission. Hooray. Going through thoughts in my mind, and I'm thinking, if I remove the engine with the transmission or the engine first or the transmission, but I think that this time around, I'm going to remove the engine first. Once I remove the engine, then I can go ahead and worry about the transmission. But for now, I need to remove these exhaust pipes and just get rid of them straight to recycle, just because this is not going to be the setup. So I need to figure out a way to just extend these longer. I don't know how yet, but it's just not going to be like this. I'm thinking since these exhaust pipes aren't too long, I should just be able to hold it as I'm loosening the last bolt. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if it's gonna go that way, it's going to fall, but I just don't think it's going to be that heavy. It was just a bit, but I managed. So that's off now. We can move on to the other one. You know, these are some high quality ass spark plug wires, and there's not a lot of things that I'm keeping from this car, but I'm definitely keeping those. So now we can move on to the headers. This should be pretty easy to remove. I love the ease of access in these old cars compared to my modern car, especially when it comes to the headers. It's definitely a breeze. I don't really know the weight of these or if these headers come out from the top or from the bottom, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, there seems to be plenty of room, but I'm undecided. Top or bottom? Okay, yeah, let's just take it out from the top. That was easy. Now that I removed that header that's here on the passenger side, I now have access to these wires that are connected to the starter. So I can remove those and then remove the starter from the bottom. Looking at the driver's side header, I think there's absolutely no way that it can come up from the top because the steering column is in the way. If it wasn't there, then I think it could come up from the top, but either way, I'll try. You know, there's this very annoying cable here that either way, if I try to remove it from the top, it's definitely not coming up from the top, or the bottom, I can't. I have to remove this first. This is very annoying. So I have to take care of that. And yeah, then I feel like it'll come out from the bottom. So this is the cable I'm talking about, but there's something down here. I think this is a sensor or something. So I need to just take this off and then this can go through. I'm really hoping that no oil comes out of here because I'm not prepared. I don't have anything underneath to catch it. So let's see. This moment of truth. Is there no? Oh yeah, but that looks like coolant or something. Well, at least it wasn't much. Easy cleanup. This dipstick is also in the way, so let's see if I can pull it out. All right, there we go. And let's see if now I can get the header, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, there's definitely no room for it. Yeah, because it just curves there and there's just no room. So it'll have to be from the bottom. Since we're already up here, I might as well remove the radiator, the fan, and I think that's pretty much it for up here. Then we can continue with removing the headers from down there. This looks really sketchy, but I have to hold it from here because there's no other way that I can do this right now. So hopefully I can grab this and it's not too heavy when I remove this. So much for not making a mess because it's leaking everywhere. Oh gosh, it's gonna make an even bigger mess. Let's see if I can just take it out straight. What is pulling me down? I just keep making a bigger and bigger mess. Okay, I know there's a big mess down there, but let me just worry about removing the fan and then I can clean that up. Again, I never expect these to be so long. And I already learned my lesson, so I made sure to leave the belt on this time. Then I'll take it off after I remove the fan. Here's the easiest way to remove this belt, only because I'm not going to reuse it. That is so satisfying. I already disconnected the cables from the starter. I mean, might as well, I already had access to it. And I also removed the spark plugs from the driver's side. So let's see if that header falls once I raise the car. I was already prepared this time with my pig mats. Absolutely love these since they help so much with the Mustang. I went out and bought more. The only thing I don't like is that just one-time use and that's it. So the header didn't fall off as I raised the car. So that just shows how tight of a space it is that it just didn't come off. So let's see if I can take it off. But honestly, I don't really know. I was feeling way more confident of this header coming off from the bottom when I was on top. So just doing that, so just looking at it from a top down view. But right now I lost all confidence and it just seems like may not. I feel like we're almost getting there. So I removed the starter. Now just need to remove these bolts from the bell housing and then we can work, then we can work our ways on the top and then remove those bolts there from the top. But for now, let's remove these 1,000 bolts. At least that's what it seems like. So the engine is looking pretty much ready. We are down to like one of the last few things, removing this carb. So I already removed the distributor, wires, some few lines that were here, fuel line, hoses, and there were also the bolts that were here at the top for the bell housing. Those were a pain to get to, but those are finally off. And that really wasn't fun because I actually ended up stripping one of them. But it's fine because I'm not going to be reusing it. And the main issue with that is just that I didn't have a long enough wrench, but it's fine. At least I got them off, but it was a real pain. So once I remove the carburetor, then I can finally attach the engine hoist. Then the only thing remaining will be to remove those engine mount bolts, and then we should be able to lift the engine. You know, all of these carburetors look the same, but this one looks a little different, at least compared to the Mustang one. For sure, it's bigger. At least it kind of looks like it. So let's see if I can just pull this up, or if I need to kind of pry it out. It seems like it's loose in every corner except this one. Let me see. So I just have a long flathead here. Probably doesn't need much prying, just a little assistance. All right, so I think that side is good. Before I break something, I decided to check. So turns out that, of course, I was never going to be able to remove it because there's actually a screw there, and then I can remove this entire plate. And then underneath that plate, there's a surprise nut. So I need to remove those two things first, and then the carburetor will come off. So obviously, this is different. Okay, it's right here. This is different than the Mustang. All right, let's try this again. Oh, look how easy that was. Okay. The engine is now ready to be pulled out, and we will be reusing the same modified engine hoist. This just goes to show you how close these videos are filmed within each other. So this one compared to the Mustang, even though by the time you see it, it might look like it took some time. In the process of pulling the engine, I made a mistake and it cost me some time. I could not detach it from the transmission, and that is because I ended up removing this long bolt first. This is the bolt that is attached from the engine mount to the subframe. Once I removed that, then these sides right here of the engine mount did not let me just move the engine forward, and then I just couldn't remove it from the bell housing. So I ended up removing then the small bolts that attach the engine mount to the block, and then I can move it. So if I were to do this again, I would not make that big mistake that just cost me time, and I would remove these small bolts first. That would allow me to move it, so then I can detach it from the bell housing, and then the long bolts. I'm so glad we've already reached this point. This took a little longer than I anticipated, but it's coming off now. All right, so now let's pry it some more. Let's do a little bit more on this side too. All right, it's moving, so let's raise it up a little more. You know, I feel like having known this would have been a lot easier if the transmission was off. I feel like if I were to do this again, I would remove the transmission first and then the engine. Even though this could still be done, it's just a little bit more tedious. Finally, so there is a transmission jack supporting the transmission, and then it took Chris and I both prying evenly to finally get this off of it. What a piece of shit, but I'm so glad it's done. So I'm just trying to be careful and then pull this back a little bit, then raise it, watch out, and then just keep repeating. I don't know why these old cars, like these engines are all the way back there. I think that should be fine now to go straight up. This has honestly been just a little bit more of a struggle than I anticipated. Everything is still fine. There's nothing blocking it, so let's keep lifting. I'm so happy. I am so happy, you have no idea. This is finally coming off. But I would definitely recommend to remove the transmission first, because this, I mean, or if I would have known, I would have just kept prying harder and harder, but just with someone so it can just come off. Instead of like me trying by myself and wondering, am I doing something wrong? Is there something else attached to it? It's almost out, it's almost out. We should be clear to just pull it out. And the reason I keep holding is because it somehow just keeps wanting to go that way. All right, so I think now we're clear, so let me let it go. And it's just going to do a whole circle here. Okay, so now we can start pulling. Is there something stuck on the floor? Oh, this, you know, you can't really steer this. It'll go wherever it wants to go. But let me see if I can move it this way, slowly, so it clears the car. Come on. Okay. What's up with this? Here it is, another empty engine bay. So this is how it looks now. I was planning on removing the transmission today in this video, but forget that. I am not going to touch that transmission today because this engine took a lot longer than I expected. So I will remove the transmission in the next video along with other things. Here's a quick view of the engine. You know, I really like the color. This just gives me ideas, and I want to paint the block on the Mustang, not blue. I still don't know what color, but a colorful color. And I still obviously need to repaint this too. Obviously it has an aftermarket clutch, and you know, that's pretty much it. I'm so glad that this is finally off so we can keep moving with this Camaro project. It may not seem like it, but this engine removal took a lot out of me. I was frustrated quite a few times, mainly with the engine mount bolts. You know, that was kind of it was my fault, but now I know for next time. Also those top bolts for the bell housing and then the detachment of it from the transmission. But I'm so glad that that's over with. So now we can keep on, take apart this engine and just a lot of other things. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.